Hi, my name's Therese Flynn-Clarke. I'm a practicing artist and a primary arts specialist teacher, and today I would like to show you a skill from my art practice. It's creating wearable items using a basketry skill. Just very simple stitching with materials. You can use all kinds of things that you might have at home, things like plastics, recycled materials, plant fibres. So today I'm going to take you through some of that. The first thing I'd like to show you is using something. I collect the fruit bags when I go shopping. I don't like to throw them away, but then I can stitch them into these little circles. These are going to be a pair of earrings. So there's the red onion bags, the green onion bags, and they've got the lovely bit on the end that makes a nice feature as well. So really, to start any of these stitched little circles, you need something soft and flexible. So hence the onion bags, and something to stitch with. So today I'm going to be stitching just with natural raffia for the onion bag, and you're really going to form a little spiral. So if I can show you there, that's how you begin, and as you stitch, you put the little stitch marks in and build it up that way. So I use just a needle with a very big eye, darning needle. Any needle's okay, it doesn't have to have a point on the end, and we thread the needle. There's all different kinds of coloured raffia, so today I'm using natural, but you can use whatever. So really what you stitch with can tell a story of you, your personality, maybe somewhere you've been. Now, you can tie a knot in the end, you don't have to. And I'm going to take the onion bag now. I'm going to start with it's got a little plastic knobbly end. And what I'm going to do is just twist it together, and this is where it gets a little bit fiddly. So you twist and make that little spiral, like the start of a snail shell. Twist, make a little spiral. Then I'm going to come in from the back and from the centre, pull the raffia through, go over the top, underneath, come in from the back again. Now I'm going to twist a bit of my onion bag and turn it around, go over, come in from the back. So you're creating like a little wheel with spokes. Twist, over, come in from the back. And we're going all the way around, going into the centre until you get back to where you've begun. So I've nearly gone all the way around. Twist, over, back in from behind. You don't have to worry keeping your stitches even. Sometimes that tells a story of your personality. All right, I've gone all the way around here. So now I don't have to go into the centre again. That would make it really thick and chunky. I'm going to go, I've actually created 2 rows. So I'm going to poke that needle in behind, in between the first and the second row. And just come in. You can line up your stitches. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So again, over, in between those 2 rows. Sometimes it's handy if your darning needle has a point, because it's easier to get into the materials. Over, in between the 2 rows, and you can see your little spiral starts to grow. So it continues over. Now as it gets bigger, the gap between your stitches becomes wider, and so you might need to add a stitch in. depending on the materials you use, how thick they are. So I've nearly come back. Now that's quite a distance between this stitch and this stitch. So I'm going to add a stitch in there. So we twist it, a little bit fiddly, holding with one hand, stitching with the others. Alright, so there's the added stitch, and now I'm going in between the previous row and this row, and I continue. And you just keep going around and around and around. Okay, like that. Now with this material, this is actually the start of a stitched basket. So you could keep going. You could keep stitching with anything you like. Here's some examples. This one's a little onion bag basket. It's actually stitched with old videotape. So you can use anything and form the sides up. So that began in the same way as this. This one's made from feed bags from a farm. Really good use for rubbish. Making a usable functional basket that are strong. The recycled ones are strong. These are all plastic rubbish that I've collected. This is stitched with just nylon string. This one's used quite a lot of rubbish. You can see all kinds of things in there. Onion bags, plant fibres, bits of fabric to make a strong functional basket. There's even bits of old nail gun in there. So kind of a nice use for recycling things. The other type of recycled thing, I've made these earrings from found beach rope. And you know, I like to clean up the environment as I make art. They're lovely, and you can add, I could add some shells and things on here as a nice feature. Maybe some little beads. So you can see you start to personalise your wearable art. Here's a basket all made from beach rope. So you can see it's the same technique. So I've nearly run out of my raffia that I'm stitching with. So the next thing I will show you is how to join some in. I'll probably get one more stitch out of it. And that's probably about all I can do. There's two ways you can join in. The cheats way. Sometimes in the past I've just knotted a new bit onto that and kept going. But you have got a knot in there which is sometimes hard to pull through. The other thing you can do is this finished thread or raffia, I'm going to just lie it down with the onion bag so it becomes part of that and just twists in and you don't see it. And I'm actually going to start a new thread of raffia. And same thing, you can tie a knot at the back. You don't have to. Sometimes I also just lay it down with what I've already got. Today I will tie a knot. Okay, so I'm just going to pick up where I left off, and that's to come in from the back with my new thread, and I'm going to lay that old piece of raffia down with the onion bag, give them a twist, and over I go and keep stitching. And that makes it really strong. That's not going to come undone now. Now we're almost at the end of the fibre. I'm actually just going to cut that bit out because I've stitched it in. There's a number of things you can do. If I wanted to keep going with this, at this stage I could lay another onion bag down in with this and just keep going. But because this is going to be an earring or a brooch or a necklace, I'm going to finish it off here. So there's a few ways we can finish it off. Some people like to leave this interesting textural end poking out as a feature. It's completely up to you. I'm still incidentally adding a few extra stitches in when that gap between here and here gets quite wide, just to keep it nice and strong and tight. I'm not going to leave this end out, I'm going to stitch it in. Now, depending on the material that you're using, you don't want a big lump when you finish. So you kind of sometimes have to reduce the material. With onion bags, it's not, I find that the ends are end up quite narrow, and that fits in quite nicely, so that you actually don't see the end when you stitch it in. Now I'm just using a straight stitch on this. Some people use a blanket stitch. Some people, when you're using raffia, if you poke the needle in the middle of the raffia, you can make interesting patterns. There's lots of basketry techniques you can learn about this. To finish it off, I'm just going to do a couple more stitches. That'll probably do it. And that's really sandwiched quite tight. That is not going to come undone. So I can just cut off that raffia and you have your first piece. So from here you can add an earring hook on. My friend actually doesn't have her ears pierced, so these ones I've actually stitched on a clip-on earring back. Most earring hooks, little shepherd's hooks, have a little loop, and you can just get something quite strong. I use linen thread. It's only a couple of dollars for a spool. It's strong, and I stitch it onto here. A brooch back, you stitch it on at the back. If I'm making a necklace, like this one is made from beach rope, I've actually made some string from raffia, added some glass beads as decoration, and just stitched it onto the back. So that's completely up to you. The earrings I'm wearing are actually stitched from fabric, and this one is stitched from pine needles. Now I'm going to show you with a different fibre, exactly the same principles. Start with a little spiral. Sometimes it's hard to get in close to the little spiral, and you can see I ended up with a hole in mine. Doesn't matter, it's a feature, or you could stitch a bead or something over that. There's no right or wrong with this. So this is a bit of nylon rope I got from somewhere, and I'm just using some hand spun wool. I think I got in an op shop somewhere. This is low. I love this because of the colour. I'm going to make a little bundle of this rope. You could keep it skinny. I always say if you want it quicker, use something thicker. So I'm making a little bundle from a few pieces of this nylon rope. It is slippery, so when you're starting, it's a bit harder to make that little spiral, but it starts exactly the same as the onion bag. So I'm making the spiral, getting my needle in the middle, over, around. When you're starting, you've just got to hold it really tight so it doesn't slip out. So I'm showing you a few different materials because it's like each material has its own personality. And some materials I love using, others aren't as cooperative. You get to know different things. Now I have a big hole in this one, that's okay. It's because this nylon rope is so slippery. Hard to get a tight little spiral in the middle. But again, we keep going around. Remember, just like little spokes on a wheel. When I began stitching like this, my stitches used to go all over the place. But now I generally try to line them up with each other. It's completely up to you. This is your wearable art, so it's whatever you would like and the look you want. Now I've gone all the way around. I'll just show you. So I'm back to where I began and I'm starting the new row. So remember, when you start the new row, you go in between the first row and the second row. You don't have to go back to the middle. That's quite wide between here and here, so I'm going to add a stitch in there just to hold it all in place. When you're finishing off something like this one and you've got this bundle of string, if we suddenly cut that off and stitched it, you'd kind of have a lump where it finished. That's okay if that's the look you want. But what I usually do is decrease the amount of material that I'm stitching with. So I'm going to cut one piece of string and take it out, and I will put a stitch in there, do a couple more stitches. Now I'm going to cut another piece off of the nylon string. And I'm left with just one piece. You can see. And I'm going to keep stitching a few more times around, and maybe I'm ready to cut off my third piece. So it's very gradual, and it just, I think, makes for a nice finish. If you're doing a basket, you finish the rim in the same way. Sometimes on my last round I go all the way around again just to keep it all in nice and tidy, nice and strong, so nothing can come undone. And you can see there's another finished one. Again, you don't even have to knot that off. That's all nicely trapped in there, so when you think you've gone around enough times and it's finished, I'm going to do one more. And I'm literally just going to cut that end off, and there we have one finished one. And again, you can stitch your earring hook at the top, brooch back. I might add a little embellishment, maybe a little shell, perhaps one little seed pod. You can tell a story of a place you've been. I know where I collected these gum nuts from, and they remind me of that holiday. So that's with the nylon rope. Alright, to finish off, I just want to show you some examples of wearable art that I've made using natural plant fibres. This one was made from grass I collected in Birdsville. Gum nuts, added a bit of wool. These are also plant fibres, pine needles, adding a bit of Nepalese raw silk. Sometimes I add special little seed caps, gum nuts. These are stitched with raffia and come from the palm tree. I've even made little stitched petals to form a flower with a piece of shell in the middle. All of these are the same technique as you use to make a basket. And you can see, here's a bigger one. Just keep going. There's a lot of possibility of colour and materials and embellishments. I hope you're excited. Thanks for joining me today. If you'd like to see more of my work and other art forms, wearable art, mixed media, I do lots of different things. Have a look at my website. Have a look at my art Facebook page and follow me on Instagram. So thanks very much for joining me. Happy creating.